This being the plot is going to be a massive spoiler, so be aware of that when you're watching this video. Lupin and his sidekick Jigen, they're fleeing a Monte Carlo casino with a large amount of money, and they have robbed the money, and on their way Lupin realizes the money is counterfeit, so they dump the money. Then they decide to look at the source of the counterfeit money, and they head to the small European country of Cagliostro for that. And it's not actually a real country, it's actually based on a small town in Italy. And there's more information about this in the introduction video. You can find information about that town. So after they arrive in this town in Cagliostro, they have a flat tire, and then they change the tire, and this young girl or young woman wearing a wedding dress go past their car. She's speeding down the road, and there's these thugs in another car that's chasing after her, like a gang of thugs who are in a car that's chasing her. So there's like a few events that happen, but in summary what happens is Lupin gets knocked unconscious and the girl gets captured by the thugs, but she leaves a signet ring with him. So that's what happens. So the girl gets captured and Lupin is left with the ring. In this car chase scene, there's one scene where Lupin is dangling from a cliff with Clarice. Clarice is the girl who was being chased by the thugs and who was wearing the wedding dress. So she's hanging with Lupin down a cliff. And there's a similar scene in Ninja Scroll 1993. This scene seems to be a salute to this film. So the scene in Ninja Scroll, which is a very similar scene, seems to be a salute to this film. Creator of a Ninja Scroll watched this film and was inspired by this film at some point, so he felt a desire to pay homage to this film, and so he created a similar scene in Ninja Scroll. And there's another similar scene from Ninja Scroll which pays homage to this film, and there are other scenes as well, and you can find information on these other films that have been impacted if you look at a video called Impact in this video series. So going back to the story, within the signet ring that was left by Clarice the girl, he recognizes that the young woman is Clarice, the princess of Cagliostro, who is to be married against her will to Count Cagliostro, the ruler of Cagliostro, the town called Cagliostro. The Count aims to marry the princess to establish his power and to use both their rings to uncover a fabled ancient treasure. So there's this treasure that's meant to be there, and these rings are able to uncover this great treasure. The next night, Lupin and Jigen are attacked by a group of assassins in their hotel, but they manage to escape running through the rooftops and into their car. So this is the other scene. There's another scene where Jubei in Ninja Scroll 1993, he runs through the rooftops and he kills many ninjas. It's also a night scene similar to this one, and there are a lot of similar colors, so it's obvious that that scene has also been inspired by this film. Then Lupin calls in one of his sidekicks, another one, so he's already with Jigen, one of his sidekicks, but he calls in another sidekick called Goemon, who's like a samurai. He has a sword, and he calls him in for help, and he also lets Inspector Zenigata know that about his whereabouts, and he gets the inspector to arrive at the castle, idea being to create a distraction. Then Lupin disguises himself as Zenigata and gains access to the castle, while the real Zenigata gets trapped in the dungeons below the castle. Lupin is going through the castle. He bumps into one of his love interests called Fujiko inside the castle, and she is actually disguised as a maid for the princess, for Clarice. And he mentions that he has not seen her for a year. So obviously they're not working together. It's just happened to be a coincidence that she is also there. Lupin gains access to Clarice's room and returns the ring to Clarice, and he pledges to help her to escape. Then the Count arrives there and drops Lupin down a trapdoor. Then Lupin, while hanging from one of the wires, he has like this ability to use wires. While he's hanging from a wire down the trapdoor, he went down the trapdoor, and he's hanging from one of the wires, and he's mocking the Count through the transmitter in the ring that he gave to Clarice. So it's obvious it's a fake ring, and there's a transmitter in that ring, and he's talking to the Count through this transmitter, and he's mocking him. The Count sends 3 assassins to retrieve the real ring, because Lupin is down in the dungeons, so he has sent 3 assassins to get the ring back. So in the dungeons below the castle, Lupin bumps into Zenigata, who was trapped inside the dungeons earlier. Then they decide to help each other because they're both trapped. They get past the three assassins who come looking for them, and they found their way into a room full of counterfeit money printing presses. So this is obviously the room where they're printing the counterfeit money. And the Cagliostros have been printing money, and they have been printing all kinds of money from all the different nations. Like, they got money from the different countries. And they have been using this money through the centuries to create a secret global empire and to also influence global economics and events through history, such as the 1929 Great Depression. So Lupin and Zenigata, they start a fire, creating a distraction. They steal the Count's autogyro. It's like a helicopter. Autogyro is like a helicopter and a plane. It's capable of taking off like a helicopter, but it's also able of flying like a plane. And they attempt to rescue Clarice using the autogyro. In this process, Lupin gets shot and he is seriously wounded. Clarice offers her ring to the Count to save Lupin's life, but after he gets the ring, he wants to have Lupin killed. But Fujiko steps in and she helps Lupin and Zenigata to get away from the castle. So they all get away. Fujiko, Lupin, and Zenigata, they all get away from the castle. So they manage to escape. And Zenigata wants the Count to be prosecuted for counterfeiting. But out of political repercussions, his superiors at Interpol close the case and remove Zenigata from the case. So while this is happening, Lupin recovers from the gunshot wound and he wants to stop the wedding and to rescue Clarice. He says that Clarice saved his life 10 years ago when he unsuccessfully tried to steal the Count's wealth, which happened 10 years ago. So obviously Lupin knows Clarice from 10 years ago because they met 10 years ago when, he tried to rob money from the Count 10 years ago, and that was not successful, and he got wounded at that time as well. On that occasion, Clarice helped him to recover from those wounds. So he met her at that time 10 years ago. Fujiko provides information to Lupin on how he can regain access to the castle and tells Zenigata that Lupin will be at the wedding to give him like an excuse to go back to the castle under the pretense of arresting Lupin. Clarice is drugged during the wedding, and Lupin with his companions manage to disrupt the wedding. Lupin steals both of the rings and runs away with Clarice. Zenigata and Fujiko, who is posing as a TV reporter. So Fujiko is, dressed up as a TV reporter, and Zenigata is also there. They go to the room with the printing presses and they expose the counterfeiting operation to the entire world because, Fujiko, she has a camera in her hand, a video camera, and she's pretending to be a journalist, and she's able to transmit the visions of the counterfeiting operation to the entire world. The Count corners Clarice and Lupin at the face of a large outdoor clock, and Lupin attempts to trade the rings for Clarice, but the Count is not honest with the trade, and both Lupin and Clarice fall into the lake. When the Count activates a secret mechanism within the clock tower, using the two rings, he gets crushed and killed by the two converging clock arms that converge at 12 o'clock. It's actually a giant clock similar to the Big Ben in London, or something like that. It's the outdoor clock. So these two arms, after he activates the mechanism, using the two rings, they converge at 12 o'clock and he gets crushed. He's on the clock face and he gets attached to one of the clock hands and he gets dragged to the top, and both of the clock hands converge at 12 and crushes him. The activated mechanism drains the water in the lake and it reveals an ancient Roman ruins. It's like a city that's been submerged underwater for all this time. And this is the true treasure of Cagliostro. So it's not really a monetary treasure, it's really a treasure like an archaeological treasure. And at this point, Interpol sends a large number of Interpol officers to Cagliostro, so they parachute down. There's all these planes flying overhead and all the Interpol officers, they parachute down. The crime ring has been busted. Cagliostro, the Count, he has been killed. His criminals are going to be caught by the Interpol officers. So Clarice, after the death of Cagliostro, she has become the new ruler of Cagliostro because, she is part of the royal family. So it's essentially two families. Her family represents the light and the Count's family represents the darkness. So, she is also a royal and Cagliostro, the Count, was trying to forcibly marry her, trying to unite the light and the dark, try to bring their families together. But his sole motivation was not really the love for Clarice, but really to get his hands on the fabled treasure, which turned out to just be a submerged city. It's really an archaeological city. It's not really a monetary treasure. Clarice tells Lupin that she loves him and would even follow him and become a thief. And Lupin gently rejects this idea, saying that he will always be there for her as a big brother, and with his companions bids her farewell. Lupin and his companions leave Cagliostro, and Fujiko leaves with the counterfeit plates from the printing presses, with Zenigata and his men pursuing them. Lupin says that his life would be dull without Zenigata, and he does not know what he would do without him. These anime films were mentioned in this video. Ninja Scroll 1993.